Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of season 24 of Beyond the Ordinary Show. We've been doing this almost 9 years, y'all, and it just gets better and better all the time. I went through a lull with the show after the first 5 years where it felt like things were getting stagnant, and I didn't know what it was. The conversations weren't stimulating. It felt like those who were teaching in certain ways that there was a portion of our speakers who were really content being where they were, and they had such a valuable message from that platform. But I felt like something else wanted to burst through, like we were breaking through a glass ceiling, and I wasn't finding that within myself. And so I sat down in earnest with my guides and with sources, like, you've got to, either I'm supposed to stop doing this or bring me a new wave of the next generation of transformational leaders, of the spirituality of what we're ready to receive. And was my prayer answered in so many different ways. And one of those prayers come through was this man who's sitting in front of us, Stewart Pearce, who the presence, the elegance, the connection to the divine, and then our connection in the synarchy of how we interact with one another is just through the roof amazing. And y'all are in for an amazing journey. And if you will, an elixir of beautiful words, dancing with the universe, dancing with the angels, dancing with this combination of this chemistry between Stuart and I, that I hope that y'all sit back, enjoy, and just absorb the brilliance that you're about to receive in the light being that you are. And prepare to ask your personal questions also. So Stuart's going to take live calls and we'll dive into that. And as we do that today, we're going to be talking about your superpower, being an empath. And Stuart's going to dive in with his awareness and his mastery in that as well. So it's going to be a very enlightening conversation, and one that just may ignite or flip the switch on your superpower in a way that you hadn't expected. So that's going to be a phenomenal call. If you don't know Stuart, Stuart's been on, he's become a regular for the show and a dear, dear friend. What can I say about Stuart? He's an angelic emissary and so much more. To put a label on what he transmits through us, it's beyond the words, it's an experience, and you'll have that today. But the connection with such clarity to the divine and how that serves you is really outstanding. And that's why we keep offering the one-on-one sessions with Stuart on a continuous basis as part of the special offer. We'll get into that a little bit later. If you want to check it out now, the link's at the very top of the chat box. April's already typed it in there, so feel free to check that out and get on the list. But that's at a severely discounted rate from what Stuart typically offers. And if you're new to Stuart, just know that he has worked with people as private clients like Marianne Williamson, Diana, Prince of Wales, the London 2012 Olympic Bid Committee, Emilia Clarke, and Margaret Thatcher, to just name a few people. So y'all are keeping pretty good company today. So again, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and thank you all for joining us on this call. Your energy and your blessing to open up your field to us is a gift that can never go away. And sir, with that long-winded invitation, I want to welcome you back to Beyond the Ordinary. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's such a joy always to be with you. And as you were speaking, I was just complimenting internally your wonderful blue shirt.
Thank you.
And although I'm wearing a white shirt, I'm actually wearing a blue velvet. Can you see the color?
It almost matches the shirt that I'm wearing.
Your shirt. I thought, we it's just something that came out of the closet at me this morning. Oh, it's such a joy to be here. It's like coming home, And you're extremely busy, I know, with the platform Beyond the Ordinary Show and all the other things that you do. I'm extremely busy. And so it's wonderful that I don't see you for about 3 or 4 months, and then suddenly we come together and I see your smiling face and I think, there's a brother. So thank you for inviting me back. It's an absolute, just a pure joy to be with you, because I know that the information is just so slipstreamed and exquisite, full of grace, full of love, full of joy. and all of the wonderful spicy details that we conjure between the two of us that I know electrify the Beyond tribe, which, you know, I just want to say thank you, John, for allowing me to meet your Beyond tribe, because so many members of the tribe send me emails or comment on my Facebook posts or Instagram, and it's always the Beyond tribe. There you are. And so these wonderful people are just absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for welcoming me, and bless you for, thank you for having me on.
Well, speaking about empaths with superpowers, and for me, we've had this discussion before, Stuart, and I've shared very openly that I believe it's the empaths that are going to create the change that we're looking for in the world. And so this conversation as empaths in our superpowers, why is this coming up so strongly for you now?
I feel it's to do with three very essential factors. I say I think, I know it's to do with three essential factors. I feel from the very deeper recesses of my heart, and as everybody knows, I believe that the heart is the seat of the soul. So as I speak of my heart, I speak of my soul. Firstly, the extraordinary conjunct between Saturn and Jupiter that took place on the 21st, which of course, as we know, was a heralding of a huge cosmic window opening, indicating to us, illustrating for us, that one cosmic cycle of 12.5 or 13,000 years was coming to a close, which was essentially configured at the beginning with Leo all the way through to Pisces, very male in its principal energies, and the beginning of we're no longer dawning, we're aging, Aquarius, which will go all the way through to Virgo, which therefore is very feminine. And so I believe on this occasion, it's not that the scales are suddenly going to go masculine, they're going to actually come into a balance. So it's not that one archetypal force is going to be configured over the other from a hierarchical point of view. What this is about is a balance. And then, of course, the new year, the moving of the new year, which is crucial. And then what has happened within one of the greatest superpowers of our world, meaning all that's taken place in the political arena of the United States of America, which of course, as you know, is a land of immense love. As far as I am concerned, I've been visiting, living in the States for many, many, many years, and I'm made to feel so welcome. And so, of course, I have grave interest in relation to this. However, I believe that with the emergence of some of the significant people that we're seeing on the main stage at the moment, and of course, I refer to very specifically your 46th president, and his vice president, who's, you know, let's just celebrate the first female vice president who also happens to have darker skin from a Southern Asian extraction. That both of these people, appears to me, are merchants of empathy. That every single thing that they purport to wish to represent and to uphold within the unity consciousness that is necessary within the greatness of what is taking place, the transcendental energy within the United States, although there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. So those reasons, I believe, are bringing us to a statement of the empath. And another reason, thank you, another reason being that for many years on an esoteric level, we've been waiting for the emergence of a cosmic Christ in the form of the Lord Maitreya. In many legends throughout the world, there has been a belief that the Lord Maitreya would step forward as the second coming. And indeed, we were told by many highly reputed sources that he was already living in this community. I say this community in the sense that I'm in the City of London today. And thank you for being so kind to me and having me on, you know, late in the evening here rather than at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Thank you so much, John. You've always been so kind and accommodating to me. And anyway, this gentleman was living, this incarnate force of the cosmic Christ was living in this city. And we were told he was working as a shoemaker, as a cobbler. Well, he hasn't stepped forward. He may be living in this community and emanating the force of the Christos, but without necessarily appearing on the main stage. And all the information that I have from my principal guide, my master, Saint Germain or Saint Germain, is that he is embodying the elements of the cosmic Christ with direct reference to the galactic heart. And he is not going to incarnate as a human being, but he is raining the energy into the empaths on this planet. Yeah. And this is the beginning of, I know you and I have talked about it before, the revolution of the empaths.
This is so wonderful, sir, because this really aligns with the transition that I've seen taking place as well, where, again, we were in the age of leaders who took on a very Leo-esque type of quality, seen, boisterous, strong, bold, and they were seen as the leaders that were bringing in an emergence of a revolution of change. And it could have seemed very egocentric, and it was for a lot of different reasons. And that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because it did have us focus on self, on what this is doing for me, and how we can emerge from this more embodied as being intimate with ourselves and knowing how to function with that power. But what I always felt is there was a transition of energies that were happening. And over the last few months, even over the last year, really, I felt the emergence of the quiet leader coming up. And think of Joe Biden as the quiet leader behind our previous president. And being in the shadow, and that quietness stepping up, but that quietness had that light behind it. And again, I'm just using him for a simple example, but how many of y'all are those empaths who kind of played second to someone that was bigger or larger in energy? They took up the whole room, and but people look at you going, "Oh, there's something about you. What is it?" And that phase, that epoch that we're stepping into right now, those empathic leaders, the ones with the simple, elegant, graceful energy that doesn't have to be taking up the whole room, you're starting to get noticed. You're starting to lead the field. Your leadership, it's what's forming this new era that we're stepping into. It's so clear for me.
I hear you. I hear you. And I feel that the journey, for example, that somebody like Mr. Biden has been through has been a journey of untold suffering. And that he's gradually, through the feat of endurance, through the feat of sustainability, of determination, of just turning up to the next level of referencing, he has stepped upwards and upwards and upwards and upwards. But what's interesting about Joe is the fact that he hasn't striven. He's just simply flowed with the energy, knowing full well that when the going gets tough, the tough needs to get going, that the endurance levels need to be topped up. And as a result of that, it feels, apropos what you've just shared, that he's standing, being within this remarkable stillness, this remarkable simplicity, where there isn't the egoic, rich panoply of theater in the ego needing to impress itself. It's much more that he is actually alive to his own sovereignty as a result of the suffering that he's been through. It feels as qualified the nature of what his heart counsel is all about, and so that he's able to mitigate circumstance from that position. And of course, I'm not necessarily talking about political strategy or political edict in terms of the job at hand, what he needs to do to very effectively corral, from a psychic and physical point of view, COVID, and then the ensuing dilemmas of economic uncertainty, and then moving into systemic racism, all of those principles, social phenomena that need to be attended to. But he's approaching it from the position of what I refer to as being an enlightened leader, meaning that he has stillness, he has empathy, and he has gravitas. So his body is weighted. I saw him in a town hall situation online, of course, because of COVID, where he was listening to a group of nursing directors, female nursing directors, very senior nurses, nursing, yeah, I mean, you know, ICU directors. And there were women that I think they were from the state of Nebraska, and they came together to share with him their turmoil in facing COVID. And he listened to them. And of course, as usual, when wonderful groups of women get together, there were about 7 or 8 of them, they were sharing, and they were really sharing. I mean, their levels of honesty were extraordinary. And it's true, as they spoke, as they expressed themselves, they were given such openness on the platform to express themselves. He was just listening, observing, and there were tears. And then they got it all out. And the camera turned to him, and tears were rolling down his cheeks, just gentle tears. And his first statement was, "I am so sorry."
Wow.
And his voice cracked. And then he said again, after a breath, "I am so sorry. And I need you to know that when I'm your president, this will never, ever happen again." And then he started talking about presidential strategy. But it was just that immediate response. It was not a knee-jerk reaction. "Oh, you're blaming the government. Oh, you know, it was just purely, "I am so sorry." Absolutely remarkable gesture in relation to the context that you were giving us so beautifully about the nature of the egoic formulation of what the masculine or patriarchal civilization for the last 2.5, 3,000 years has principally been about. And of course, as you were saying, it's a very beautiful reference. It has been necessary because one of the great intentions within the egoic is the management of what it is to live as a material being. And so we've organized our systems, even though occasionally they break down, the material systems. We've organized them to such an extent that we have infrastructure and superstructure that allows us to live the lives that we live with increased technology of absolute efficiency. But of course, what we also know is that the power within the individual, as that management process is created and sustained, has overreached itself because the egoic compound of the intellect has not allowed full balance of the heart, of love, of empathy. And now that needs to come back into.
Well, yeah. And we witnessing happening on the outside world. We witness it through the people that we pay attention to in the media, again, through this political system, through organizations. And it's wonderful. And that's a fractal. Let's bring it home to us now. Let's bring it back to our audience. So how do we manage that egoic system? How do we take all of those compartmentalized structures and integrate it more so that they become part of our superpower, not something that we're trying to judge away, chase away, clear away, do without because it doesn't serve us anymore, but really take it in as something, as part of the path that we've journeyed through to know ourselves in that capacity and carry that leadership within ourselves forward in a way that we've never been able to before.
Well, this is one of the remarkable celebrations of this role that you give me, because I fly very high with a number of people that are change leaders or thought keepers around the world. Several of them are working in the field of politics. Several of them are working within the field of finance. And I'm talking about the higher echelon. And then you give me this opportunity of being able to serve as humbly, as forthrightly, as truthfully, and as lovingly as I can, to meet, as you were saying, well, let's bring it away from that level to what's happening in grassroots. And that's what your amazing people teach me, of how, okay, let's get grounded, let's get simple, what's going on here. And so to answer your question, I believe that the fundamental aspect of what's happening right now at the beginning of 2021, as all of these social effects are taking place, is that we're beginning to really nudge ourselves towards what is my sovereignty. And knowing as spiritual beings having a human experience that our sovereignty is effectively crystalline around the crucible of our love. It is that simple. We've heard it so many times that love is all there is. As it says in the Course in Miracles, love is all there is and fear is an hallucination. And yet too many of us are supercharged with fear, with hyperadrenalization, with successive levels of cortisol, because we spent too much time being fearful in response to what we're told by the doing mechanisms of our lives, the cerebral mechanisms of our lives, that we need to keep striving. There is no gain without pain. There's no gain without pain. And as a result of this, we're imbalanced. And now we're beginning to identify that when we're truly in sovereignty, we're thriving. Not striving, but thriving. As a result of that, we suddenly realize that we're emanating degrees of radiance that draw other empaths to us, that draw like-minded peoples to us. And then we begin to share on a level of communion. And as a result of that, we begin to realize that the egoic content of why am I having so many problems to do with money? Why am I having so many problems to do with my children who are disenfranchised? Why have I got so many problems in relation to my partner? Why is it that I feel I've lost my soul's purpose? I meet lots and lots of people through your wonderful platform. Thank heavens, many people seem to find the clarity, the truth, the love that I have to offer means that many people come. And everybody comes with the same question. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my soul's purpose is. Which is also testament, I feel, to the fact that we're going from one era into another era. And the old era was, well, you can, when we were at high school, you know, you can join the artists, you can join the scientists, and if you don't know what that is, be a hairdresser. You know, which is very crude, of course. But as a result of that, we lose the spark of what's really taking place as we grow at that time, because after all, the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old child is really beginning to open up the heart chakra into a sense of self-knowing. We go into the 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old who is beginning to open up self-expression through the throat chakra. And then we move into the 14, 15, 16-year-old when the ajna, when the third eye begins to open about self-objectivity. And of course, that's when those big questions come. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which is one of the most stupid questions ever. I don't know what I want to be, but, oh, I've got to fit in, right? Okay, tick the box, tick the box. And so we become clouded with this level of quantification. And then at some point in our lives, we go through these extraordinary tests within our integrity, such as that we've been through for a whole year, virtually, with COVID and the ensuing economic uncertainty about, well, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay? I'm going to pay the mortgage. What's going to happen? How can I feed the children? Because we're all in winter at the moment. I just saw my electricity bill yesterday. Oh my God. And because we're spending more time at home, we're clocking up more, you know, what do I do with this? And so, of course, we know that the first thing that we do is surrender it to the divine. Because we know that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We come back to the element of what is my sovereignty? Well, I'm feeling unsafe and I'm feeling insecure. Okay, let's work on that. Let's not focus on the insecurity and the unsafeness. Let's say, I am safe, I am secure, all is well, and I'm in absolute connection with my core vibration. And keep saying it.
I love that you bring that mantra in because it's so important. And I want to give everyone on the call, y'all know this, but the reminder is so important. It's so important. As human beings, we are hardwired through our sympathetic nervous system for fear. We can have moments of illumination, moments of happiness, and then we are going to default through our hardwiring to find the danger in the situation. That's just the way we've been wired, and we're maturing as Homo sapiens. We're growing, we're evolving, our brains evolving to receive in a different form, and our bodies calibrating. The alchemization that's taken place is coming through all these alignments that are happening cosmically and on the earth plane simultaneously. And we're being supported in such beautiful ways, but it's part of our evolution. So know that as fear comes up, I just want to invite you, as you notice fear in your system running through you, just remember, go, oh, this is how I've been wired, but I'm changing that. And just bringing presence to that will dilute a percentage of the fear where it's not running as much as it is before. And as an empath, that's just such a valuable tool that you can have easy access to just by remembering, oh, this is the way I've been taught, I've been wired, my body's been accustomed to running, and we're acclimating to something else. And that's why the tools that Stuart offers, and the acknowledgements, and the calling up to a vibrational tone through the voice, through the being, through the etheric field that you may or may not see, depending on how empathic and how your vision is. But it's there, and it calls us forth and up into this froth of energy that you can't help but to attune to, because that's where we're all heading. We're all growing in that way. And again, the role in the empath and being able to feel the sense and to transverse through these wormholes of evolution, if you will, that we're going through now because it's happening so quickly. It's a testament to how valuable being aware of our empathic nature is. And again, taking it from a place where we cursed it, or we felt like we were separate from everybody else because we felt too much, into how do we become the embodied leader for ourselves and for others by taking this gift and developing it into something that not only serves me, but because it serves me, it ripples and it serves humanity as well. So how do you take the empathic, fearful empath and take them into their superpower, Stuart?
You see, I feel that the fear is human.
Yeah.
And that the empathic is divine.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
And so, I was just feeling when I was quoting A Course in Miracles, and I can just feel the ripple of, well, that's all very well, but actually it feels like fear is really real to me. And of course it is. But what we're being given in a split second, I feel, is the opportunity to choose. If we're hyper-reactive, hyper-focused, and hyper-vigilant, we're in a constant production of noradrenaline and cortisol, which constantly will move us into fear. So we need to slow our neural pathways down through being in contact with nature, by being in contact with kindred spirits, and by being in contact with meditation, and by using a physical meditation, a breath meditation, a chant meditation, a prayerful meditation, a Tai Chi meditation, a walk through the woods meditation, a being with our loved ones meditation, contemplation. So it slows the neural pathways down. And thereby, in that moment of fear, or when the shit hits the fan, we're able to detach, feel stillness, and observe. And we stop reacting, which produces even more hyperadrenalization. We stop reacting, we start responding. So reaction is a reaction of something that we've always acted before. A response is a new choice. And that's what I'm finding with myself, that in each moment there's an illumination of grace. I found myself in a situation last week where I was being interviewed by a major Fleet Street journalist from a tabloid, from a daily newspaper, and a very experienced journalist whose technique was pure cynicism. Whose technique was to destroy and deconstruct rather than construct and illuminate through love. And I found myself becoming internally immensely defensive. And I realized that as I practiced detach, feel stillness, and observe, which was difficult because this person was moving at 950 miles an hour, which is what that hyper realization is all about. And it's designed to find fault. It's designed to find weakness. It's designed to find denunciation. And that's why it goes so fast. But if we're able to feel stillness, even in the speed, I was actually able to make another choice, and I waived grace in favor of the situation. And as a result of that, the whole of the meeting changed into something which was infinitely more beneficial for me to be able to communicate the richness of what I've written about in a book called Diana, the Voice of Change, which begins with love and ends with love.
That's beautiful. Well, one thing that you mentioned that I want to bring awareness to is that you said, if I'm able to bring this up, and I have to take it back, and it's, you've developed your ability, you've practiced it, you've said, I am going to grow and mature through this. And that's where your ability stems from. Some people can have maybe a more natural propensity to pick it up quicker. Some of us may be a little bit slower to catch on to that ability, but it's with practice, awareness, and not being afraid um, to jump in the pool and see if you can swim, or shy away from it if it rains. That we start realizing just how masterful we can be, and how we can shift the direction from condemnation into love very quickly by going into the practice of our ability that we've honed through practice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, some people speak of what I've achieved in life because it's there in my bio. But for me, these markers, these indicators of what I've achieved, they're purely and simply trophies that have been acquired through pure due diligence of just turning up, and through years and years and years of suffering,
Mm.
but of constantly turning the suffering into an opportunity for change.
Mhm.
And there have been, you know, principal indicators, and one of them that comes to my mind as I repeat what I was saying earlier, and you also we were talking about stillness. I remember about 30 odd years ago when it suddenly occurred, and I was in a situation where I was literally fighting for my life. It wasn't that I was about to expire my last breath, but I was being judged, I was being criticized, I was being condemned, and I was being denigrated by three leading professionals in the chosen industry that I was in. And they were all in denunciation of me. They were manipulating me from a gross degree. Now, the inner child was so upset that, you know, the first statement is, how could you say this about me? I'm a nice person. But the point is, I was trying to live where whatever's happening on the outside of me is a mirror of what's going on within. So I need to take responsibility for this. The point is, do I need to be here? And in that moment, I realized there was this blinding flash where I realized, well, actually, all that's being communicated to me is merely a perception. The question is it an accurate perception of what I feel myself to be? And in that moment, I realized it wasn't. So I was actually able to say, you know, thank you so much for all of this rich contribution to my life. But I need you to know that I don't see myself in relation to what you're describing me as being. And so in this moment, I realized that we're just simply not in vibrational match. So I want to thank you for all the opportunities that you've given to me. And now you will see me leave. And I hope you have a very, very happy life. Goodbye. And I just left. So the crowning glory being that this is only a perception. Whatever is being offered to us is only a perception. It may be a raging boss. It may be an unkind manager. It may be an abusive husband. It may be a really challenging child who is trying to find their way in the world, but is projecting all of their anger, all of their fear onto one. This is merely a perception. The question is, what principal perception do we want to have to be able to rearrange the situation and see, as the Chinese do, that crisis equals opportunity.
Mm.
I believe that that's what God wants us to do. And so I'm playing very much. I mean, I know you and I have talked a lot about the existence of different timelines. And I feel that time as an energy is really being requantified in our experience at this time. And one of the ways that we're requantifying is by recognizing that time has an on, off, on, off, on, off switch. For example, if we look at the nature of day, night, well, day is on and night is off. It's very simple. And the way that our optic nerve, the way that the whole of the constitution of our eye registers light is that literally it sees light, it closes down, it sees light, it closes down, it sees light, it closes down. The difficulty is, of course, that we know that with the level of hyper intensity that we've been encouraged to be through our educational processes or through our skill making, skill acquiring processes, that we become this hyper vigilant. And as a result of that, we're blinking, 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 blinking because the neocortex is disturbed by so much information. But if we can actually slow this down without grossly affecting the musculature of our eyes, if we can just keep looking at one direction, the light continues to flow. And as a result of that, if we've worked on the pranic cord, the element of our, the light moving through our spine, we're able to actually feel the multidimensionalness of the universe pouring into our physical intelligence, which allows us to see a way of being able to direct whatever's taking place socially into something which is infinitely more harmonious.
Yeah.
And so I ask everybody to look at the way they blink. That rapid eye movement is moving us into stress. And that if we slow rapid eye movement down, we automatically feel a lull in our energies. And thereby we begin to configure the one thing that we most want, which is to be fed, to be nourished by the light, rather than to be in the presence of the darkness.
Yeah. That's beautiful. There's an intimacy in that presence that we seek, and in that presence, in that gazing directly into what we seek, we find that the stillness arrives, and we can feel that nurturance that embodies a new creation within us. So it's so beautiful. Stuart, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I want to take calls, and we have to go through special offer because people have the opportunity to work with you one-on-one, but also the meditation practices that you bring in and the other information that's in that special offer really speaks keenly into the state of presence that you're calling for if you're on the call, and what you're illuminating and holding us in a vibrational state as you speak and embody what it is that you're sharing with us. So all of y'all, well, let's take everyone to a special offer. The special offer, April's going to put the link in the chat box one more time. Probably put it on the end of the call as well. Click on the chat box, find the link. It'll pop up there any minute now. And you can get to the special offer page also by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Stewart24, the number 24. It'll take you to that same space. One of the things that I'm aware of, Stuart, again, when we come together, that again, you can't, through the synergy of us coming together, a new potentiality that perhaps alone would take longer to get to or isn't stimulated in the creative field right away occurs. And I know from receiving so many testimonies from clients from BTO that have done sessions with you, that just in your presence, immediately there's this wormholing up to another access, a layer of consciousness and light that becomes available. So I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit more as we go through the special offer. And if you would, Stuart, go ahead and lead us into the package and let everyone know what they will be receiving, what they can ask, what they can ask in the session, and again, why these meditations and recordings is part of the package as well.
Yes. So the soul reading is really what we're talking about as a sort of as the figurehead of the ship, so to speak. The ship being the compound offering that I'm pledging to your wonderful community. And a lot of people come to me without necessarily having attuned themselves to the directions that are given in much of the correspondence that we send out, expecting that it will become a psychic reading of the old order. Now, of course, as you well know, I'm a medium, I'm a psychic, And for, I've been doing this for over 40 years. And in the early part of my career, I would do what conventional psyche does, which is I would sit and a dear one would come and I would just talk. And the information would be useful or not useful. And then the angel said to me, because I feel this intelligence of these 12 extraordinary like beings that have been working with me since '87. I felt them coming in and saying, "Would you please stop doing that?"
Mm.
Because I was spending most of the time out of my body. They said, "We want you to teach embodiment." And the only way that you can teach embodiment is if you actually provide a soul reading, meaning allow the individual that you are with to move into conversation with you so that the individual feels all of the degrees of your soul functioning. And so, what does this mean? Well, here is our 3D life, and here is our spiritual life, what we used to call religion. And what I'm doing is not keeping them separate, I'm bringing them together. So my very first question is, so how are things? How are things going? What's happening? What's happening professionally? What's happening personally? What's happening personally? What's happening professionally? Tell me how you're really feeling, because feeling is the language of the soul. And then immediately the dear one who comes opens up to the possibility of, well, life at the moment is shit. And the reason why it's shit is this. And so it enables me to observe and respect and honor what the choices have been made that have made it shitty, and how I can bring in the soul's perspective of, well, do you realize that your soul is completely uninterested in the fact that you think everything's shitty at the moment? What your soul is wanting to do is to allow you to see there's an alternative, that crisis equals opportunity, and that wherever there is confusion or chaos or pain, there is always illumination, there is always order, and there is always transcendence. So let's look at that. Now, I've noticed with most people in that moment, there is a field of transcendence that is opened. It's not just what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it. It's a vibrational frequency that alters the constitution of the individual. And then it's so bespoke. It then goes into, okay, let's deal very specifically with the fact that we are from the source. And the source is an infinitely unfolding creative possibility full of love and joy. Notice there is no permanency in that statement. It's an infinitely unfolding creative possibility full of love and joy. And what we're asked to do as human beings is to bring ourselves into the fact that we're living an infinitely unfolding creative possibility full of love and joy. The difficulty is that the educational format says, no, you need to choose one thing and stay doing it for the rest of your life. And what we're beginning to realize is that no, we're manifold, multidimensional creative beings that can actually begin this and then move into this and then move. In other words, we're following a sequential, organic revelation and realization of self-actualization. Does this mean that we become a jack of all trades and a master of none? No, it means that we're still accruing excellence and beauty and success, the hallmarks of a highly oriented constitution, of a mind that is really living through thought creates reality, but it's feeling that actualizes the manifestation. That the whole of the cosmos is based on feeling. I shocked a quantum physicist the other day who came to me for public speaking skills, who has all of the formulae, and I was sort of amazed by how much quantum foam and quantum quarks that he could articulate. But it was all deeply boring. And most of his lectures, or the people are leaving all the time. And I said to him, okay, I want to know why, how you feel, why you're a quantum physicist. And he started to tear up and said, I've lost my way. So I said, well, okay, let's look at something within the realm of quantum physics, within the realm of astrophysics. What is a supernova?
Mm.
And he immediately started to talk again intellectual formulae and was very impressive. And I said, okay, well, that's all well and good. And I'm sure you're probably right. Not that I really know very much about what you're talking about, but I do have an intellect that I can span these things. I'd love you to know that I feel that a supernova is a cosmic orgasm.
Mm.
And he burst into peals of laughter. And I said, if you can talk in these terms, if you can talk metaphysically and metaphorically, you're going to actually open up all of the feeling within your being that is going to allow you to be magnetic. Because this is the currency of the way that we are exploring our lives at this time. It's a balance between the intellect and our feeling state. So the soul reading is about opening up the firmament of the way that we can begin to strategize our lives by using cosmic laws, by using cosmic principles, rather than some of the edicts that we may have acquired through the cerebralization of 3D. There is always an element where I say, okay, now let's hand over to the angels. Although, of course, I feel that right now I am ever present and ever vigilant to these beings of light that really are my life. And that, for 30 years, I've given my life to these angels, which means that I've lived alone in the devotion and the dedication and the discipline of a monk or a priest, so that I can have this contribution or this unique conversation. And they always come in, and I use the oracle. And what's fascinating, the Oracle of the Angels of Atlantis, what's fascinating is that the cards always repeat what we've just experienced. And so the tears, the joy that the dear one experiences, where they feel, it's not just that we're having an opinion conversation. No, this is actually phenomenal, because we're speaking in, to use the word yet again, in quanta field, because the angels are part of the experience of what cosmology is all about. They do not give us information. They don't have free will. They look on us and wait for us to ask. And when we ask, could you help me with, they're there immediately, because their vibrational counsel is, for example, if we take Raphael, the holy healer, is purely empathic. It's always about bringing back into balance, bringing back into equanimity, bringing back into equilibrium. That's the stationary crystalline presence of this vast plasmic being of light, not, can you help me with my suffering? It's not, let me help you with getting back into balance. I've spoken a lot, but that's somehow the tenor of what takes place. And of course, for me, it becomes absolutely specific when I'm working with the individual, because I'm an empath myself.
Well, and I love in the sessions also because, as your example with the scientist, the quantum physicist, we can get into very intellectual, very linear forms of being and creating and trying to live our lives. And the empath, y'all open up to the reality of this and feel the liberation. But the sensuality that you were invoking through the cosmic orgasm and how he made it, how it laughed, and inviting him into the empathic ability to sense, to feel through his physical vessel as well. And the attraction factor that is for other humans to want to be in resonance and co-create with that is immense. And so we soften our edges. The armor comes off in a different way. And we meet each other through the expression of that sensuality in various creative ways that can't help but to co-create with a resonant, cohesive field and expand into something beyond that we can feel, but we don't know how to get there. But that's the beauty, that's the glory of this exploration of being human, and how exciting.
So you see, I wonder if that's significant, meaning how? Because our left brains have been taught to always consider how. And I feel the divine is saying something different to us at this time. I feel that the God is saying, don't worry about the how.
Yeah.
Surrender, as we would say in contemporaneous speak, lean into me, lean into me. I know how it happens.
Well, that's
you don't need to know
surrender,
how.
right?
All I want you to do is, what do you want and why do you want it? Now, they're two totally different questions to ask. No, how am I going to do it? And you so beautifully celebrate the conviction of surrender and yield, which is let go of the how.
Yeah.
Let's move into magic.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful moving into that.
So that's where it goes. And of course, you and I found with your wonderful community that most people are really interested in engaging on that level. So I want to say a big thank you to your community, because your community allows me to be who I am in the multiplicitousness of who I am, just by turning up and saying, hey, you have something which I really feel drawn to. Can you help? Ah, ah,
Yeah.
ah, ah. And I love being a psychic detective, and helping people see, yeah, but really, can you feel what's happening there is actually that? Although it seems as though this is happening, this is really happening. Wow, I never thought of that. That's amazing. Okay, so a moment of inspiration comes in, upliftment already comes, and suddenly the weight, all those coils of pressure,
Yeah.
alleviate from the upper spine, neck, and shoulders. And as a result, we can breathe freely. And when we breathe freely, of course, as you were beginning to intimate, what happens is that we then move into prayer, we move into chant, we move into meditation. And when we move into prayer or affirmation, we open up neural pathways into the mind of God.
Mm.
And we must trust this, have belief, faith, and trust that is, we've been taught it for millennia, but this is the singular way to allow God to know how he or she can best help us, rather than, well, how, running around like headless chickens.
Well, we're birthing, going beyond the belief, faith, and the surrender into knowing. You just get to a point of knowing. It's just,
Yeah.
this is all happening for me. I know.
Yeah.
I know this is all happening for me. I know. And that surrender is like, and whatever's for me next will show up next.
Yes, I use the attitudinal muscles of belief, faith, and trust simply because we know that this is a very, very difficult time for all of us on planet Earth. It's also a very remarkable time. But many people's hearts are broken.
Yeah.
And when our hearts are broken because someone's died, because there are thousands of our brothers and sisters who are leaving at this time and going back into source. Thousands, and they may be using COVID as an exit policy, but actually thousands of people are going. And if we lose dear ones, if someone dies, we talk about losing them, whereas actually they've gone back into source. So there's no loss, but we use this because we know that something is fractured within us. And as a result of that, our belief in essential wisdom, in the central cosmology of divinity, is suspended. And as a result of that, our faith is broken, particularly if we're in a relationship where we've been betrayed, whether it's professionally or personally. It scars our hearts and it goes deep into our bone marrow, and then we stop trusting.
Yeah.
And so those three muscles, they take time. I mean, I can remember the last relationship that I was in. It was towards the end, it became a very destructive process where my partner tried to kill me, and it shattered everything within me. It took me 7 years to heal those muscles until I could actually feel once more the buoyant being of great fun, great equanimity, and I would like to think one that is beautiful and excellent. It took me a long time to heal that. So that's why I use those degrees. But from a purely cosmological point of view, there is no divisibility. Nothing is in division. It's absolutely in unity consciousness. And for that point, actually, when our dear ones go into some of the other offerings, I've written a series of prayers, and I wrote a poem, especially for this. Being an empath is your superpower.
I love it. Oh, it's so good. So let's get into the rest of the package, and we'll get into Q&A. So again, the reading, first of all, the angelic soul empathy reading. How long is that reading, Stuart?
It's 60 minutes.
60-minute. Fantastic. So you get that. And then we have these being an empath is your superpower meditation, the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic meditation. Oh my God. I can only imagine. Tell us about that.
So it's a channeling that was given to me, which I've re-recorded, and it's my voice speaking the Lord's Prayer, but in Aramaic. So it becomes a wonderful, lulling, soothing, incantatory meditation It's an extraordinary, this is the language of Christ, and it's one of the sacred languages. And so there is immense emission in the sound particles, in the vibration of the frequency, which, many people say that it's produced an altered state of consciousness that automatically heals. And so it's it's a vehicle, going back to what I was saying about how prayer opens a neural pathway into the mind of God, that this sacred prayer illuminates the conviction of what that transmission is all about.
Amazing. And you've got some other meditations in here, and for the sake of time, I'm going to scroll through it. So we've got the Jewels Within meditation, and you want to give us a brief overview of each one, just a short glimpse, because I'm looking at the scroll of golden rules for being an empath. I'm like, I want to know what that is. I want more. Give us a description of some of these, just briefly.
Well, the Holy Scrolls, the sacred scrolls, are really indicative remembrances or reminders of what empathy is, and from the perspective of what the divine, what the angels wish us to experience at this time in a state of miracle mindedness. So that's what the three scrolls are all about. They're the golden rules, if you like, that are cosmic principles. But when I say golden rules, I'm not talking in terms of 3D hierarchy. I'm talking about the fact that they're spiritual teachings that have been taught through the 5 major faiths for millennia, and now are being rebooted or reshaped into this new crystalline technology that we're referring to as miracle mindedness.
I love it.
That we are from the source, and the source is an infinitely unfolding creative possibility full of love and joy. We arise from the source, and at a certain point we choose to go back into the source. And we call it a loss, whereas actually it's a huge gain.
Oh, so beautiful. So, and the saying that keeps coming for me also, when we talk about loss, for me, it's like once love is given, it can never be taken away. It's always compounds, if you will, and keeps growing with you. And if we can remember that in every interaction, it's the gifts that we open up to, and how we access our superpower with even greater ease and clarity and power. Again, becomes a wave of transformation, again, within our own self, but again, what's available for the rest of those who interact with us, either consciously or subconsciously, as we bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Y'all, this package of Stuart, it's just second to none. The 60-minute reading by itself is a bargain, and so valuable, a treasure truly. And to have these illuminated meditations, to have the Angels of Atlantis, to have Stuart, to have these readings in Aramaic, and these vibrational transmissions help to repattern not only your neural pathway and your embodied state of being, but your access to a super consciousness that just by flipping the switch a little bit floods into your awareness is amazing. So I highly encourage that you guys take advantage of this. It's a BTO special offer, and I'm so blessed to be able to bring it to you all in my community. So take advantage of it. The link is in the chat box. April will type it in again because she's awesome. But you can get to it also, for any reason you can't find the chat box, by typing into your browser beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Stuart24, the number 24. I'll take you right there. And Stuart, I would love it. Well, thank you for this amazing offer and for providing this here on BTO. And it's with that I'd love to open up to some Q&A if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to the questions. I've been chomping at the bits because I can feel the energy coming through here. Oh my God, Deborah, with that big, beautiful smile. Deborah Trainer, if you will unmute yourself, please. You're still muted.
Hi.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi there.
Hi. How are you, Stuart?
I'm really well. I'm thrilled to be here. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I spoke to you a couple of months ago, and I am definitely going to do the program again.
Oh.
I'm on my computer, which my daughter uses all the time, so I don't really touch it that much. So I'll have to do it from my phone. But my question is, being an empath, And especially now with things that are going on, it's really hard to be positive because everyone is miserable and you take in. I just feel like I'm taking in everyone's misery. It's really hard to get past, but it's no matter where you go, people are just so unhappy. So being an empath, how do you kind of protect yourself from feeling all that everyone is feeling?
So the first thing is that being an empath, we need to really honor the empathic state of our own sovereignty, the empathic state of our own counsel. But what I'm suggesting, what John and I are suggesting, is that it is actually a superpower. It's just that we've been brought up to believe that it's a weakness. And actually it's a vulnerability, which is our truest strength. Because when we're vulnerable, we draw all sentient life to us. We know when we look into the eyes of a troubled dog that has been beaten, that automatically it through its unconditional loving, draws us into the use of empathy, or a child that is in that is in jeopardy, that is upset. So firstly, it's by going into the nature of that understanding, do you see? That it's not a weakness, it's actually our truest strength. Now, what that means is that we make a choice about, am I going to allow this negativity to contaminate me?
Okay.
And so the first choice is, well, no, actually, I'm not. So we begin to choose our friends really artfully. And of course, when I say artfully, I mean beautifully and excellently and intelligently. Why do we want to spend a lot of time with people who are emanating toxic energies? That doesn't mean to say that we're in judgment of it. It means we're in discernment of it. So I feel that what we need to do is to corral our energies psychically and physically so that we don't have a relationship that is destructive.
Well, thank you so much. Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for
Before, I just want to, I have the oracle next to me. And so I just want to show you what the oracle is saying to you.
Okay.
It's Michael, Archangel Michael, who is the cosmic leader who's wanting to lead you towards your own sovereignty. And the oracle is enchantment. And so actually, you see the unicorn is the portal keeper to draw you into the kingdom of the enchanted.
Oh, okay.
And if you're free on Saturday rather, guess what I'm doing? I'm doing a webinar of enchantment, where we get to chant magic into our lives. So if you go to my website, you'll see it.
Okay, I will.
Much love, much love.
And there, I want to add and just bring awareness and call you up and out, is that not everybody is in that disillusion space. Look at Stuart.
I know.
Feel me. And so be the conscious, empowered chooser of your perception to invite that into your own life and your experience, but also to invoke it with those who you might be suffering around you. So as the leader that you are, not just for self-protection, but how can I show up to serve others through my shift of perspective of what I am choosing to be and want to become.
Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah.
Enlightening, thank you.
All right. All right, let's go on. Well, before I go on to the next caller, Julie has a question. Julie wants to know, how do I know if I'm an empath?
Heaven knows. Sorry, I'm being obtuse.
I love it.
Okay, so empathy is your number one superpower, because the peerless love lying at the heart of empathy is the key power that brings the might of your soul to be alive within you. Now, if you understand what that phrase means, you're an empath. Meaning that if you have a sense of hypersensitivity within your body, if you feel that when the wind blows, you feel it against your skin, if you look into the face of a child and you see the face of God, If you look into the face of a pet or an animal and you see the wonder of paradise, then you know that you're actually working empathically, because it means that you're sensitized through all of your sensorium to the possibility of what that rich communion is going to be. The difficulty, as we were just hearing from Deborah, is that we get polluted by the negativity. An empath sees the negativity, and as you know, one of the things that I've written on the scroll is, because no one is you, this spark of love that you are as a divine being is your sovereignty. Therefore, please let no one enter your kingdom unless they come bearing love.
That's beautiful. You guys come back and listen to that and feel it, allow it to bubble and run through your system. Oh, Stuart, that hit me like an arrow straight into my illuminated heart. I love it. So powerful. Thank you so much for the question. Let's go to Tia. Tia, welcome to the show.
Hello.
And did I say your name correctly?
Thea, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I lost my way for about 10 years, and I'm just discovering myself, reawakening, reigniting, wanting to open my heart, find my joy, reignite my creativity. I'm investigating a lot of things, but I really want to try to get a sense deep within myself of opening it up myself. So my question is, what's my next step?
To love.
Love always is the answer.
To love. Oh, hello. Somebody knew.
Yes.
I lost you and suddenly.
Amen to that one. Yes.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Literally. I would suggest, for example, darling, I would suggest that you're on a mission to discover how the remarkable evidence of what you've been through over the last 10 years can become crystalline tools that allow you to connect with the outside world. And so, for example, create a list which you can call your compassion list. And your compassion list is, write a love letter that says, dear friend, do you realize how much you're loved? Do you realize how much you're revered by everybody who sees you? Because whenever you walk in the strength of the divine, with grace rippling through every aspect of your body. Do you realize that although you may not know me, that I'm praying for you all the time? With much love, a friend. Put it into an envelope and stick it underneath somebody's windscreen wiper when you go to the grocery store. As soon as you start putting out feelers, you see somebody will be there. A mother with an infant in a buggy will be there, and she can't open the door into the grocery store. Open it for her and look at the beam on the child's face and on the mother's face, etc. Create a list of 12 things. Flow with love.
Okay.
There you go. Does that seem like a difficult thing to do?
I'm in isolation more or less because that's the way the world is. And so my relationship with people is very, I don't really spend much time with people or around people, and I'm alone a lot. I love the idea of the random act of kindness. Yes. I'm hoping to really open it up and be able to hear my guides a little bit more and see what my next step is on my soul path.
Okay, so the next step is very, very simply that you've spent 10 years within the council of your mental body. The next step is bringing it into embodied witness. So although you're isolated, in the sense that you're not working, you're not, because of COVID, you're blah, 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 blah. Use cyberspace.
Hi.
Reach out to people through cyberspace. Find ways of being able to use the richness of what you've acquired in relation to the deliberation of someone else, even if it's just a question of having a chat.
Okay, thank you.
Do you see? Allow it to be embodied. as a result of that, remember, you've been given so many indicators through what John had been saying and what I've been saying. Stillness. The tuning in is through stillness. God lives in the stillness. God does not live in the action. It's we in the image of the divine that brings creativity, brings God into creativity. God doesn't do anything. God just is still.
Yes.
Read Yogananda. There's that wonderful text about the mendicant, the devotee going and seeking the divine and rushing through the forests and then finding the temple and banging on the door, all the doing. And then the mendicant, the devotee enters into the temple and there's God just lying there, absolutely still, and doesn't say a thing, and then eventually communicates telepathically. I am always silent in my chamber of stillness. Sit, breathe, and I will teach you the language of the angels. Fascinating.
So
That's
beautiful.
the piece. That's the piece. Thank you. It's taking months to slow myself down and go inside and be quiet. So thank you. That was
My
it.
pleasure, my pleasure, my
So
pleasure.
can I ask you a question, just because Stuart allows me to tag team over here?
Okay.
Has there been a place where it really hurt, where your love wasn't received?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
of course, as empaths, we all suffer this in one way or another. And isn't it funny, when Stuart asked you to share your love, that you couldn't find how to do that?
I have a lot of trouble connecting with human beings, frankly. I don't necessarily want to. And I think it's because I haven't found my spot.
You have a fear of connecting with human beings, and it's being repatterned.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. Just be aware. And so
Thank
put it out there. So I'm going to have you do a practice for me.
Okay.
Tell me I'm wonderful.
You're wonderful.
Thank you so much. Really easy, right? It's that easy.
I met you yesterday. I met you yesterday and I immediately was drawn to you and I thought to myself, you are a wonderful human being.
Thank you. See, what a gift it is to receive that, and how wonderful. Feel whatever's happening in your body as you express that truth so fluidly. Like, how amazing to liberate that from this human stuck body and allow the angelic to flow through us in that eminence of love that you are. So thank you.
Thank you.
I feel you're going absolutely in the right direction, because you manifested John.
Thanks, Stuart. Absolutely.
And John, you manifested John, right? And John is, John is the man that you wanted to manifest as a vessel of intelligent purity.
Mm,
And the card is spiritual freedom.
nice.
There you are, like a dervish, whirling through the heavens.
Mm.
So I feel you're on the verge of a quantum experience.
Mm.
Thank you.
Rejoice.
I'll
Dear,
see you in
thank
2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Sir, I have to call on this woman. It's someone that I met through Instagram, and I just see her such a being of light. And I don't know her well, but I have so much admiration for her because I see her and what she's doing. So it may not, I'm talking about you. If you'll unmute yourself and ask your question, it would be wonderful.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh.
I really to be seen. That was just gorgeous. Thank you. Oh, there's so much love here. I just really want to just take that in. So last year, I really spent a lot of time going within and witnessing as well for myself. How can I be of service and truly embracing the love I have for being of service. And I also had the beautiful opportunity to work with Stuart a number of times as well. And something that I really worked on was embracing the role of a princess from Malaysia and seeing how does that authentically align with me. And I've sort of decided to view it as the archetype of a priestess, because I have such a love for creative expression and healing modalities. And I can feel it all coming together right now. The energy around me is quite intense. And I've been asked on a number of events to speak to my creative expression, which is, you know, not one thing, but something that keeps coming up for me is the power of poetry. And I've really witnessed the power of that globally when Amanda spoke at the inauguration event, and just the power of beautiful language, you know, that doesn't shock, that really invites us to open our hearts and feel into the truths of our bodies. And I'm so passionate about re-centralizing the notion of spirituality, especially in the tropics. I come from a background where it's all about transcending and ascending with a Sufi father, and all about bringing it back to sensuality. And I really feel that in the language that you speak between you two. And I just want to be open to any transmission right now from both of you, how I could just infuse that into my work as I speak more about this topic.
So you have a key, you see, which is a remarkable key. It's an ancient key, which has been silenced for a number of years in mainstream culture. And the key that you have is into the metaphoric consciousness. What's taken place is that we've moved from the metaphoric consciousness into the cerebral consciousness of quantification, whereas your elemental force is qualitative. It's all about quality. So your choices are always refined. Your choices are always beautiful. Your choices are always dignified. Your choices are always grace-filled. Your choices are always kind and loving. It's the teaching of your priestess within. So I would suggest, and I'll, you know, because we know each other, I'll send you an article that I wrote that Huffington Post took into print when I was working with Marianne, about the fact that she was creating a new resonance within the soul of America, bringing the heart into politics, and how it was opening up a force field of energy that really closed down in shock when Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. It's now awakening. And so you're feeling the ripples, do you see? And that's why I say, write your poetry, speak your poetry. And of course, you know, I know personally about that wonderful success that you had, which is several months ago now, isn't it? When you were able to find that point of communication that was overt because you shared through your poetry. It's bardic, isn't it? It's really bardic, do you see? Although, of course, it's seen through the lens of your own South Sea culture, but it actually has the bard element about it, do you see? Yeah, so I can give you lots of information about that. I mean, that's why I had to write a poem for this event, you know, which is called the Love Jewel Within. And so the third meditation is called The Jewels Within.
That's beautiful.
So amazing. So Mina, your question you ask with such sincerity and power, authority. You're asking a question from authority, not from doubt. And you can feel that in your energy. So be aware of where your question's emanating from, because you're meeting in the divine from that formulated question in co-creation. So even that you're asking, you're saying, I'm willing to evolve. I'm willing to show up. I want to be here of service for the divine and for myself simultaneously. And that creates the nexus for a point of creation that expands beyond just you and the divine and creates ripple effects for others to benefit from. My suggestion is keep doing what you're doing, be the light that you are, and trust your process and have patience with the becoming, but enjoy the process of that becoming. You're just illuminating and you know it. And I'll share for you and for everyone on the call, a poem, a passage from A Course in Miracles again, that got me through the beginning of creation of Beyond the Ordinary, because I thought it was bigger than I was in certain aspects. I was bringing on luminaries who'd been in the field for a long time. And who am I to have these conversations with them? And so the passage from A Course in Miracles goes, I am here to represent He who sent me. And I'm trying to remember the rest of it. I have it, and sometimes I lose it. I'm here to represent He who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am here only to be truly helpful. And I'm messing up the lines. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent He who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to do or what to say because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be where he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I allow him to teach me to heal. So look it up and have that perhaps be as your mantra where you can step into and swim in the knowing of that source that you're so divinely tapped into. Trust that. Again, I feel the authority of it in you. I felt it when we first connected, and it seems even stronger now in the present, seeing you here on video as well. So thank you for what you're doing and how you're sharing, and the innocence that you carry and the power that you have the opportunity to world. I don't know if you unmuted themselves, but we'll try to find that. Wonderful. So Mina, thank you and blessings.
Yeah. And
Thank
you know,
you.
the one final thought, the marker of this was that in Mr. Biden's inaugural speech, he used words that no other United States president has used.
Okay.
And they were all empathic. It's the opening of the metaphoric consciousness. And of course, then, as you were saying, Amanda, just like a bird from heaven, a bird of paradise, came in at the age of 22 and held her force in front of the whole world and spoke that extraordinary poem. It's again an indicator, you see, that we're moving into a totally different aspect of the way that our psyche is realized in the conversation of how words are sounds that have vibrational frequencies attached to them.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I mean, hang on for a second. I want to include you in this conversation just because I love your energy. But Stuart, with Joe and him speaking empathically, I really have to give a lot of credit to Marianne Williamson for opening up the doorway for Joe to say, oh, I have permission to do this, because that wasn't happening before. And Marianne was such a force, even though she didn't get elected, her presence on that platform cracked open a portal that wasn't there before in this particular arena.
Totally.
And I know you worked with her personally, so I'm sure you take a lot of pride in
that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I just moving the conversation away from that sort of thing here, you know, into really feeling how the heart vibration can move through those great aspects of rhetoric that the political field is full of. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you so much for calling in. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been
Bless
such a
you. Bless you. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, y'all, again, the special offer with Stuart. The link is in the chat box. I know April's going to type it in again just because she's that efficient. Wants to make sure that you guys can access the special offer. It includes a 60-minute reading. Stuart, that reading, it can be on Zoom, on a phone call. How do you usually conduct those?
It's generally speaking on Zoom, and then I can press the record button, but sometimes people find it difficult. So we've been talking on our cell phones, either through WhatsApp or through FaceTime, and you know, and the wonderful cell phone, you can just go click and press record, because Zoom has been, as we know, overtaxed thoroughly because of COVID.
I have to ask a question about the recordings, because I knew that there was some legislative issues or some legalities in the UK about recording sessions. Is that something that can happen now with your clients? Sessions are being recorded?
Well, I am bound by European law. So it's not just to do with these shores, it's to do with the whole of Europe.
Okay.
I can't record because of client confidentiality. The client has to ask, can you please record this? In other words, the client gives permission. I don't, you know, but in fact, this is the only platform where that happens.
Right.
It's very rare that people come to me and say, can I have a recording? Because there's an emanation I've discovered, which is so startling and quickening and awakening that, you know, rather than being cerebral and writing everything down, people always remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go with the flow. It's amazing. So again, you have the 60-minute reading, you have the scroll meditations, you have the empathic superpower meditation, you've got, again, just that litany of divine consciousness coming through Stuart in the poem that he wrote.
And of course, the meditations are literally ways of embodying, as you know, we were saying to our former speaker, of embodying the notions that we're really sharing. The difficulty is that we've been taught to encase so much of our process in opinions. And really what we're talking about, although they're moved by perceptual references that are highly individualistic, that it's a question of, well, are we really allowing these ideas to become realities within our cellular nature? So the meditations do this, they're prayers and also breath work and chanting to awaken a very, very deep vibration within our beings.
Amazing, amazing.
If we're not meditating twice a day, we're mad.
Yeah, it's, I know where I go when I leave that practice, when I don't drop in and swirl in my own vortex and nourish myself. We seek nourishment from all these different places, but what emanates from us when we step into our capacity for that self-sustenance, there's nothing more beautiful than you. Enjoy you. Truly, truly, it's amazing. So again, beautiful, beautiful expansion and elimination of what no longer serves through these special offers. And again, take advantage of it. The link's in the chat box. It's $197. There's a 2 payment option that you can take advantage of as well. And also for tonight's call, we'll be running the replay. So the email that'll go out later this evening, we'll have the links for the special offer as well. We'll have the replay link. Come back and listen. And as we're wrapping up this evening, Stuart, you're gonna have to come back for a Q&A. It's just, we're just gonna have to invite you back to the party if you're willing to show up. And we'll do that maybe in the next couple of months, not right away, as Stuart has a busy schedule, launching a new book and so many exciting things that are happening. But with that loose invitation and no date, and we'll confirm afterwards if you're open to it. Do you have any final thoughts to leave us with this evening as we move forward?
I'd love to share this poem.
Beautiful.
It's called The Love Jewel Within. Because I wrote it specifically for you, for this platform, for the community. In the deepest depths of you and me, in the deepest depths of we, lies a jewel in beauty's store, shining forth eternally. Within that precious jewel, within that priceless piece of we, lies a zone beyond all time, lies a place beyond all space. Within that sacred source of light, within that precious glowing we, lies a love beyond all love, waiting, waiting patiently, waiting for you, waiting for me, waiting for all to see the beauty that is you inside of me, the beauty that is me inside of you, the beauty that is we. In the deepest depths of you and me, in the deepest depths of we, lies a wisdom of love and joy, whispering for all eternity.
Oh, I got the chills, Stuart. I got the chills. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, dear beautiful man. It's such an honor to call you a friend and to get to bask in your wisdom simultaneously.
Thank you for the opportunity of bringing me on, and the wonderful people that are here. So I see faces that I recognize. That's wonderful. There's Jess. So it's beautiful.
It's wonderful.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah, everybody, y'all are so beautiful, and again, such an inspiration. And thank you for calling forward these conversations, this embodied wisdom, this vibrational state of awareness and being. You all are calling this out, and we get to show up in reflection of that calling. So I bow to each and every one of you, and namaste. I love you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Have a great evening.
Namaste.